Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the recent story in The Guardian that the English counties will be voting on a radical shake-up to cap matches from domestic cricket. So myself and Sal will be talking about the different issues in the county schedule, of which there's quite a lot, and how we try and improve it. So subscribe if you're new, and let us know your thoughts about the county schedule down below. It'd be great to read those. So Sal, plenty to get through, mate. Let's get right on to it. So as I say, there's been a story in The Guardian recently by Matt Hughes, is very in the know about all sport, but cricket as well. About the county's going to have a vote sometime in July about, yes, say a radical shake-up to cut matches from domestic cricket, which has been going on for quite a while, to cut matches in the county championship. And the T20 Blast to 12 matches in each competition. There's a few other things which we'll talk about as well. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's been talk of cutting matches and cricket is playing too much, even going back to when there was no 2020 matches, T20 matches, but like there was like two or three 50 over competitions and Sunday League and all sorts. So it's nothing new, is it?
No, it's nothing new. And I completely back it. I think there are way too many games being played. I think it's affecting the quality. I think it's affecting fan engagement. I think it's reducing the overall numbers of spectators as well. And also, I don't think it's good for the players' well-being because I think there was a survey out by the Players' Union not that long ago, and some of them said that I feel like a zombie, and it's very dangerous. And I think it's only a matter of time before a player who has played a 4-day game and then the following night he's playing a T20 game and then he's driving on the motorway after they're finished late at night to go to the next county game. It's only a matter of time before something horrible happens. Um,
Well,
and actually,
sorry to interrupt, mate, but I'm glad you said that because I was going to bring this up anyway, and I've got a great. I was trying to think if someone was quoted of saying something like that,
yeah,
and then just on that survey, there was another one this year by the PCA published in May, citing physical like respond 83% of respondents said they had physical concerns over their workload, and 67% believe the schedule is detrimental to their mental health, which is not, which is a very high amount. But it was talking about a 4-day game and T20. Well, Daniel Bell Drummond was quoted on this. Was it last year to Wisden Cricket Monthly, their pod, where he scored that I think like triple century and batted a lot in a county championship game, and then like I think that the next day or the day after he's facing Tim Mills in a T20 Blast game, and yeah, obviously he was tired from batting for a long time, getting a triple century and whatever, and he said, I remember Tim Mills bowling. I was half awake and I thought this isn't right. And that was last year. He was quoted about it, talking about the previous season, the 2023 season. So there must be countless stories. And as you rightly said, that was the PCA. I remember reading that PCA survey about players feeling like zombies. That was a few years ago as well. So let alone what it is now.
yeah, and even just taking a step back and maybe even not looking at it from a player's well-being perspective, but I think in terms of the quality of cricket on show, I think the quality isn't there because you haven't got time in the season to work on something. If you've got a game day after day after day, when have you actually got time to
Yeah,
go
to
to the
train, to
net, to work with
practice.
the
Yeah,
coaches, to
yeah.
improve? And then that's going to be detrimental to the national side as well. And I know with batting it's a little bit different. I know it is technical, but I think especially with fast bowling, you need to work on certain things. I mean, look, when Stuart Broad and James Anderson towards their end of their England career, they were just playing purely red ball Test match cricket, and I think because of you know they were legends of the game towards the end of their career, it felt as though they were protected by the ECB. They had a certain amount of autonomy over their own schedule. So I can't remember exactly the series, but I remember Stuart Broad. I think he was under a little bit of pressure for his place a few years ago. Went away, worked on his game, improved his skill set, increased the number of variations that he had. And he came back into that England side and was phenomenal and pretty much was until the end of his career. So it shows you what can happen. And I do feel sorry for the players because that means that there are a lot of county players out there that aren't being able to get to and not being able to reach their full potential because they've not got the opportunity in season to actually work on something. Um, so I think it's a real shame. I think it's not just exclusive to cricket. I think the workload issue is unanimous across sport. And I think it's because of greed and because of money. Those TV companies, advertisements. They want money, and actually, I suppose the problem is they're looking at it purely financially. So they're looking at it and going, okay, well, if we just squeeze all these games in, it doesn't really matter the quality of the product because we're going to get money from advertising, we're going to get money from TV rights. It doesn't really matter if everyone's tired. It doesn't really matter that the bowlers are kind of, fast bowlers are then kind of medium pace, kind of on their last legs. It doesn't matter. But actually, I think what I believe is that we've got to a point now where actually, I think if you have fewer games, I think you're likely to get more crowds because let's take county championship for example. There are so many games. If take it to the extreme, you've only got 10 or 5 even. That's going to the extreme, but you've only got very few county championship home matches per season. You're more likely to go to one of them, and everyone's going to do that. So if you've got 20 games, first class games that to choose to go to, you're likely going to choose a different one to somebody else. Whereas if you've got a fewer, a smaller pool of games to choose to actually go and watch your local county play, more people are going to go to it because they've got fewer options. And I think that would improve engagement. I think you'd obviously get more money for spectators. The quality of cricket will be better. So actually, I think investing in the players and their well-being could actually do the opposite of what probably the promoters think. And actually, I think you could end up with one better product, but also probably with more spectators and potentially not that much difference in terms of financial outcome. Because I think cricket fans are quite savvy, right? I think like the Ashes, for example, that 2005 Ashes, it was a great series and there were great games, but it was great not just because the games were close, but because I think cricket fans could tell that Australia were the best side in the world. England were pushing them to be the best side in the world. So you've kind of got England with the best seam attack, Australia with the best spin bowler ever. So the quality was really high. And then you go to 2009, 2013, it was still great because it was the Ashes. You've got the rivalry there, but actually the excitement wasn't there, and I don't think there was quite as much anticipation for it because the quality of cricket on the show wasn't quite as high as it was previously. I think we're in that position with the county game where actually I think if there are fewer games, those bowlers are going to be bowling more quickly. They're going to be fewer injuries. So you're going to have your best players open more often, available more often. And I think the quality on show would improve, and I think that would naturally get people coming back. And again, if there are fewer games, there are more spectators will naturally be there because they haven't got as many to choose from to go to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot to it as well. Like, yeah, the quality of the games, and would fans want to attend? If there's less games, yeah, I think arguably they would. But also, there's the big elephant in the room about the schedule, and we have to talk about it. It's the 100. No, it does polarize opinion, but it's not going to go away. I think the current TV deals in the stage until 2029. And in that article, I was saying by Matt Hughes in The Guardian that it's likely to actually become a T20 competition afterwards. So that maybe that will that change things? We're not sure. But I mean, essentially, this block in the county season for England is all of August, pretty much. Is at the moment it's just 100, and then obviously unfortunately, the Metro Bank, the 50 over competitions, that's played at the same time, and yeah, that's essentially a second 11 competition. So, if this proposal goes ahead, or one of the proposals goes ahead, where they cut 2 games in the county championship and 2 games in the blast as well, that will free up, games to be played. I mean, I think they should do it anyway. Is play a few games in April, the Metrobank 50 over competition, because as we've seen with the youngsters that are coming through, then they're not exposed to that level of playing high quality 50 over cricket. It's literally just you play T20 Blast 100 and then you go straight into England 50 over, and it's obviously a lot different than playing than Blast cricket or 100 cricket, eh?
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree with your point that there should be perhaps more white ball games in April. I think that's a really good idea. I think counties need to, or the schedulers need to help themselves a little bit as well. So in order to get more spectators going to those county games, you need to put them on days that people are available. So bank holidays, weekends. So if you were to do it in April, you could even open the season, have the season openers on that long Easter bank holiday weekend. So people are available. There's a bit of excitement. People have got spare time. You've got the early May bank holiday, the late May bank holiday. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that you need to utilize those kind of public holidays and get people going to the grounds, because realistically, who is going to be joining? Who do you know that's going to go to a 4-day game midweek in a cold April or May kind of drizzly day? Not many people. And actually, the good thing I suppose with the white ball cricket is there is some flexibility in that you can play under the lights if you need to. There is a bit of flexibility with time. But yeah, I think for me, it's trying to get spectators back to the ground to make those counties more financially sustainable. And I think to do that, they need to schedule a little bit more intelligently as well. And then I suppose the other point you made about the 100 is, yeah, I mean, I'll put it out there. I don't like the 100. I never have liked the 100 as a format. As someone that I feel like I know quite a lot about the game, I watch it and I don't feel like it's really cricket. And I just, I
yeah.
just don't get it.
I don't think it's just take. I think it obviously exposure and things like that. I think the money that's generating. I think that's obviously been a great thing. I suppose particularly in the women's 100 in particular has been amazing. But I actually think I don't think the quality is that
No,
much
I agree.
better. Is that much better than the T20 Blast? Which I think. Imagine all this money that was invested in the Blast.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. Or even red ball cricket. I think
Yeah.
I think, and that's the other thing I don't like about it. I mean, there are many things, but one of the things I don't like about as well is that I think the designers of the competition just have this warped perception that young people want everything now, crash bang wallop. But I don't really agree with that. And I think it's quite um, a oversimplified belief that actually young kids just want crash bang wallop. But it's ridiculous because the rules are completely different. So you're trying to get these kids into the game and saying, okay, it's not even the 100 isn't simple. It's still quite complicated to get your head around compared to like other sports, right? So then if you've got a kid that's now going, okay, I really like cricket, I think I understand it. And then the next phase is that, okay, maybe watch some T20 games. It's a completely different game. And I think, is that going to turn them off? So um, I don't understand the logic. From what I understand, it was done. The 100 competition was designed purely so that the the BBC, for example, can squeeze the game in because they couldn't quite squeeze the T20 game in, which is bizarre. And I agree with you on your point about the quality on the show. And its competition has got competition from the Major League Cricket um, uh, tournament as well, which it didn't have initially. It's got competition in that the British franchises cannot offer the same volumes of money to players that other franchises, like the IPL, for example, can offer. So you're never going to have, the top players playing there. The other thing is that, and I know I mentioned before about the format frustrates me, but I worry that it's almost too big to fail. And I think that's a very dangerous thing because it seems to me as though the ECB are so invested in this. All of the money, all of the investment has gone in purely to this competition. And I feel like it's too big to fail because actually I looked at some of the statistics a while ago. Television, so the volume of people watching the 100 has decreased over the last couple of years. Now, instead of kind of addressing that and saying, okay, why is that? Why are people being turned off? I think instead of saying, okay, maybe the first year people were intrigued and interested and watched a couple of games that may not have been into it originally, but now we've kind of got a little bit bored and turned off. They're coming up with excuses saying, well, okay, well, that year we had football World Cup, or then we had the Olympics, and then we had this, and then we had that. So I worry that it's too big to fail, and I think it's at the detriment of the county game. And I agree wholeheartedly with your point that had they invested that money into the T20 Blast, for example, I think that could have really helped the county games, the county game. And I suppose the final point on this for me as well is that I think Wimbledon, so tennis, has got it bang on. Everybody knows every year when the competition is. Everybody knows There's a buzz around it. There's the history. And I think Wimbledon, I think the promoters have really marketed the history and the tradition well. So you get celebrities all over the place going, embracing that tradition, tourists going, enjoying it. And I think cricket has that as well. But I worry that it's trying to create these, you've got county teams that are like 100 odd years old with ample tradition and, you know, um, and kind of traditions and kind of old grounds and whatnot and history. And yet, what we've got is these American style, American sounding franchises that have just been created off the back of a fag packet that just sound a bit naff as well. And it just doesn't sound very crickety, if that means. And I think cricket has got such a good opportunity to market itself intelligently in the same way that tennis has with Wimbledon. And I think they've just kind of missed the point a little bit. And I think it's really disappointing. And I think the fact that I think it's too big to fail and they're just going to keep pushing this and pushing this is not healthy.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. And I think a few questions need to be asked of Tom Harrison, former chief exec of the ECB, and I'm pretty sure this was his idea. So I think he's got a lot to answer for about there. Um,
Yeah, I suppose just quickly, lastly on this as well. The one thing I do like about it, so the one thing I do like about it is that it seems a bit more of a friendlier crowd. So families can go, mums with kids can go. It seems like because it's not a stereotypical cricket crowd, it seems a bit more inviting for those people that aren't necessarily close to the game. Because I think we've all experienced, sometimes cricket. If you go to like a test match, for example, it can be, depending on where you're sitting, it can sometimes be a little overwhelming and a bit intimidating. But the one thing I do like is that it's potentially getting people into the game that wouldn't otherwise be in it. But I still agree with you that had the ECB invested this money into the county game, actually they could have done that at county level, and I think that would have been a much better thing to do. And you would have obviously had, the teams. You'd have had like a team for every county, right? Rather than just a couple of northern teams chucked in, or who two Manchester teams, one northern other. I mean, it's just bizarre. So if you're in the Midlands and you've got the Birmingham team, like for us, in Essex we've got the London Spirit, but actually I think we'd much prefer to be supporting like Essex County Cricket Club rather than London Spirit playing in Lords, and all the tradition that comes with that. But I think they've kind of, I agree, and I like the fact that they're trying to get people that aren't necessarily, or families that aren't necessarily traditionally into the game, enjoying it. But I
yeah,
think even with,
that's a really good point, and that's been a real success of the 100, I would say.
yeah, and the women's game,
Yeah, and women's game obviously as well.
I think the women's game has really done well, and I think that it's been great for the women's game, especially the young girls watching it. And the great thing is, the other good thing is there are some games on terrestrial TV on the BBC, which is great because there aren't that many. You got the test highlights, but you have to kind of search for that in the BBC on the iPlayer. But actually, you've got actual full games of cricket on terrestrial television, which, and I think, one for another day. But that's the reason why I think there's been such a disconnect in terms of the working classes getting into the game, because I think after 2005 and all the rights were sold to Sky, there's been that disconnect because I know from my perspective, I started getting into cricket watching it on terrestrial TV. So I like what they're doing with the
Yeah,
hundred. I
Channel
like the
4,
fact they're
mate.
doing that.
Channel
Yeah,
4 for the win.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I really like what they're doing and the fact it's on the BBC. But I just think, why is it the 100? Why couldn't it have just been a county game with all this tradition? Why couldn't it have been something else? It feels a little bit odd, and I worry that if the TV viewing figures go down again, are they just going to keep pushing it and pushing it? Because after a while, the BBC really going to keep the terrestrial TV channels going to keep saying, yeah, we'll invest in it if no one's watching it.
Well, that's the big question of the ECB. I mean, reading that, I think Richard Gould and Richard Thompson, obviously the two chairs of the ECB. Well, certainly one of them wasn't a big fan of it. I think probably both weren't fans of the 100, but they're stuck with it, so they have to talk it up now. So that's just shows that priorities change. Obviously, once you're the head of in the national body as such. So another issue you were saying about the with the 100, but obviously even at the start of the English season, we had it this season. with James Vince and a number of players not playing county championship cricket in England for this season anyway, and probably in the future because of the ECB's new policy and no objection certificates. So they're allowed. So if you're like a red ball player, contracted red ball player, you are allowed to miss the start of the season to play in the IPL. But if you want to play in the PSL, like obviously the Pakistan Super League, you're not allowed to. And that's why James Vince is not playing for Hampshire in the county championship this season because he decided to play in the PSL. So I think obviously that wasn't an issue a few years ago, but now the PSL they've changed their dates to obviously coincide with the start of our season. So it's I don't quite get that policy from the ECB. Either you allow those players to play in all of them, or you don't allow them to play any at all. That seems a bit fuddled, if I'm being honest.
No, I agree. It's a bit odd, and it should be all or nothing, as you say. It's a bit strange that they've said, "Oh, the Indian Premier League, yes, that's fine," but then Pakistan Super League, no, you're not allowed to do that. Um, it's it's bizarre. Yeah, I think they're a little bit. I don't think they really know either, and that's the point. I think the cricket outlook is changing so much so quickly. I think it's taken us. You think all the way back to Kevin Peterson, who first started, wanting to play in the IPL and England. You think how far we've come in a relatively short space of time. It's changing all the time, and took the ECB quite a long time to get on board with that. It wasn't until Trevor Bayliss that things started to change. And they started to empower players and let them have a bit more autonomy over their own careers. But yeah, I think they're still trying to figure out how to work this through with all the new franchise leagues that are all popping up all over the place. So I mean, I do sympathise with them that it's not a simple solution, but it's at the same time it feels odd that they're saying yes to the IPL and no to the PSL.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I don't quite get that policy, but I'm sure that will change next year. Or you'd like to think so. I mean, understandably, the players were up furious. I think was one of the quotes, or words to that effect anyway about that new policy, which you can't really blame them. It's their career. It's a short lifespan as a professional sports person, particularly a cricketer. You've got to make hay while the sun shines, as obviously KP has rightly said on a number of occasions. All
Yeah.
right, so let's finish this domestic video sale on how we would structure it. It's a very difficult question which no one has got the answer to. Even like people at the ECB, they're struggling, let alone us two, club cricketers and fans. So, but let's obviously stuff like obviously test matches and whatever that we'll cover that in our second video on this topic. But in terms of like the 100, obviously that's ring fence, that's August, so we can't change that. But how should we go about it in terms of the other competitions?
So I think this is where we're probably going to disagree, but I hope we can disagree agreeably. Is that I feel like 50 over cricket is obsolete now, and I think when you're trying to reduce the volume of games in a schedule, I think that's the one for me. That's the format for me that's probably most at risk. I think, going back 10, 15 years even, the 50 over competition, 50 over cricket was played differently to T20. And you had those difficult middle overs to manage. And, you tended to have quite an exciting finish where, it's a bit of a crescendo. You'd start slow and kind of work your way up, build the base. It's just played like T20 game now. It's just slog from the start. And 50 overs each side, that's a long day as a spectator, and that's a long day in the field for a player. So I think in terms of one, player well-being, two, in terms of the format, which I think is becoming obsolete. That for me is probably the one that I'd be looking at, and the one that I'd probably be saying, okay, let's try and see if we can get rid of that one.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, I mean it's tricky. I mean, I think the ICC really need to, you know, they need to do something in terms of either promoting 50 over cricket, or they need to say, look, this is the future. We're talking about the Future Tours program, but that's more. I mean, they do cover obviously other formats like T20s and one days as well as Test cricket, obviously the Future Tours program and stuff. But they need to, I think, really clarify the future of 50 over cricket internationally.
Mhm.
Because yeah, I would do the same. I would scrap up or certainly reduce the 50 over R1 if there was no international sort of 50 over competitions going forward. But we just had a Champions Trophy at the start of this year, and we haven't had one of them for a while. So maybe 50 overs is still high on the ECB's on the ICC's agenda. So I think we just need some clarification about that. But yeah, I'd move in terms of what was quite good at the start of this season was we had a big block of county championship games in April and May. We had I think 7, so that's half the fixtures. So I would go for something similar, maybe have 5 or 6 in April and May, and then intertwine that with 50 over games. It's a bit easier in Australia to do this. Their schedule, they've got 6 states. They play I think it's the Marsh 50 over Cup. Obviously, they got the Big Bash as well, and obviously the Sheffield Shield, which is obviously a mega good competition. So it's just 10 games, 6 teams, 6 states, 10 games. You know where you stand, and the same with the 50 overs. But I think they do the same thing where it's a mixture of list A, and first class cricket. So I would try and do something similar in April and May, a few county championship games, and the Metrobank 50 over games as well, and obviously have the middle, obviously mainly blast cricket, and obviously got the 100 in August, and then they do the same thing where it's the remaining 50 over games and the final, and then obviously the remaining county championship games. Easier said than done, of course, but I think that's how I would. I don't think you can have it as it is now with as it been the last few years where the 100 and the Metrobank are played out at the same time. It's a farce, really. You can't have this is meant to be the top quality competition, and it's basically just a second 11 competition. So then they can't that can't be an option going forward. It shouldn't be anyway. So that's how I'd change it.
Yeah, so I think for me, I'd push the start of the county season to May. So I'd probably use that first Maybank holiday as the start of, say, even the T20 competition. As I say, you could have it start it as a day game, but then obviously you can play under the lights if there's a little bit of rain or whatnot. So that's probably what I would do there, because I think April can sometimes be too cold, and I know not this year, but I think generally sometimes it can be a bit cold. And I think if everybody had some consistency and the cricket fans knew that first Maybank holiday, that's the start of the cricket season. There's going to be a couple of games over that long weekend for your county, one away, one home. You know where you want to go to and watch. I say that's probably what I would do, and hopefully that would help in terms of the franchises as well. So there isn't going to be as much of a crossover between things like the IPL and PSL. And I think in order to do that and shorten the start and the end of the county season, that's when that 50 over decision would have to come in terms of removing the 50 over competition. I think that's an interesting one, because I don't think you can remove the T20s from the international teams now, because you've got the smaller international countries playing it, and the minnows kind of using it as a stepping stone to 50 over and test cricket. But I think there was a bit of a missed opportunity, particularly with the franchises and how strong they are. So I think the ICC could have maybe negotiated with those franchises and said, okay, we'll give you exclusivity over the T20 games. That means the counties in Britain, all the franchises, they get to play T20 cricket, and the international side perhaps is just Test cricket, or Test cricket in 50 over, or just Test cricket, and then that's it. And that would help the county games, because they'll have an exclusive product that people can't go to England and watch, and I think that would help the franchises as well, all over the world. But I suppose the other thing I would do. But as I say, I think that decision that's the IT20s are kind of too deep in the cricketing calendar now to do that. The last thing I would say as well. So the last thing I would do is I would create 3 divisions of county championship teams, and I think having smaller divisions where you could say, I don't know, what are there, 15 counties, something like that.
18, yeah, but I think that in that
18.
report with Matt Hughes, I think that is one of the options with the 3 division. I'm not sure if they're going to go for it, but that is an option. I think the counties are all the players are considered anyway.
Yeah, I don't think the counties are going to vote for it, because obviously the Turkeys won't vote for Christmas, and those teams that are going to be in Division 3 will not be voting for it. So that's like a third of the counties that are going to be saying no. But that is the most that for me is the easiest thing to do to improve quality, to reduce the volume of games for the players, improve their well-being. Because then it almost becomes a bit more like a test match. It's a bigger thing. Whereas if you've got like shed loads of county championship games, you can kind of, as a player, go through the motions for a couple of things. I've still got a dozen left to play. It's fine. Whereas if you have fewer, if you've only got 10 county championship games a season. You've got to make everyone count, and it means that you're going to be able to put them at the height of summer or as close to as possible, to kind of actually get the best out of it. So as I say, we've been lucky this year with the weather, but in years gone by in April and it's been almost snowing and icy, like it's just injuring players. Is it really worth it? Like, what's the quality? Who's going to be going to watch it? So yeah, I would have three divisions. I'd have three divisions of six. I'd have probably the bottom two getting relegated. So then you've obviously got the top two or three that are going to be vying to win the championship, and you've got the bottom three who are going to be looking over their always constantly looking over their shoulder. So there's going to be no mid-table mediocrity, which I think will improve the excitement and make it a little bit more fun to watch, and actually add a little bit of context, because I think that's where, particularly in Division 2, that gets lost. Because if you're not going for promotion to Division 1, or even in Division 1, if you're mid-table, it's kind of a bit, once you get past halfway through the season, it's a bit pointless, really. So actually, I think that will keep the excitement, get people involved. Because you sit with football all the time, because it's so contextualized. Football fans will pay a lot of money to go and watch their team. And given the context around that part of the season, they'll be happy to watch a really boring, poor quality game of football that's 0-0 if it means they get a point to achieve something. And I think that's what cricket needs more of. And then obviously you'd have the Division 3, but I would still I'd maybe have a Division 4 of the minor counties, and have that, for those first class counties. I think that having the fear of being relegated into Division 4 with the minnows and the kind of the smaller counties, I think that would really throw open the gates and actually make it really exciting. I think it would be fun as well as a cricket fan. You might get a local, butcher or someone playing in Division 4 that currently then gets to Division 3 against these big counties, one that might have been relegated in Division 2, and just, smacking a quick 100 or taking a few runs. I think, that's what I would do. So scrap 50 overs, start the season later, have three divisions of six in the county championship, but play those games at the height of summer. And actually, I think that would stand them in good stead. It means, in terms of the fast bowlers, the battery of fast bowlers that England have at their disposal, we should have more, and they should be fitter, because we're not overworking them when it's really cold in the beginning of the season, and we're not overworking them full stop. Players' well-being will hopefully be better, and because there are far fewer games and far fewer days in the county calendar that people can go and watch their local team, they're more likely to go on the same day as somebody else. So the crowds would hopefully get a little bit more lively and get a few more people there. And I think it will create a little bit of buzz, and that's how, in my opinion, I think we could definitely improve the county game.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. There's a lot to it. We'll see how it goes. So, well, thanks for that, mate. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Let us know your thoughts down below, and we'll do an international one very soon. All the best for now. Take care.